to you! Pass you! It can't be!
You gotta admit, that end right there was a close shave. Throughout this review, I will also refer to Dragonball FighterZ as DBZ Fighters to make it easier for me. But before I go on with the review, I will explain a quick synopsis of Dragon Ball for those that may be slowly getting into the series. In 1984, Akira Toriyama created the Dragon Ball manga, which would then become a TV show in 1986 and lasted until 1989, which within 2 weeks later, a sequel series, Dragon Ball Z, premiered, and the rest, as they say, is history. The Dragon Ball series involves protagonist Goku, a Saiyan who crash-landed into Earth and raised by his late adopted grandfather Gohan, whose namesake would be given to Goku's son in Dragon Ball Z. Goku would befriend many allies as well as face off against many enemies not only to save the world, but also fight to collect 7 mystical orbs called Dragon Balls, which can summon a dragon named Shenron, who grants the person one wish. Dragon Ball would have such a great story and martial arts action, but when Dragon Ball Z came, the martial arts madness then goes into overdrive with lightning fast attacks and enormous energy blasts that can do so much property damage, though I find it puzzling why any planet's inhabitants never sue them for any damage caused. I've actually enjoyed the series during my elementary years, with the fight between Goku and Vegeta being the last episode I've seen, and I didn't continue on until I reached my junior high years and beyond, when I continued where I left off when the show was broadcasted in Cartoon Network's Toonami block. After some mediocre reception of the sequel series Dragon Ball GT, Toei Animation decided that a proper sequel is in order, and Dragon Ball Super is made, set between after the Majin Buu saga but long before the final episode of Dragon Ball Z. And just for FYI, Dragon Ball Super has nothing to do with the PlayStation 2 game called Super Dragon Ball. Of course, the Dragon Ball series would not only spawn many toys and collectibles, but the series would also spawn many fighting games, such as Dragon Ball Z Boyo Retsuden for the Sega Genesis, which is based off of Super Butoden 1 and 2 for the SNES, which was fun for the time, until it didn't age well due to its clunky controls. And prior to DBZ FighterZ, many would agree that during the early 2000s, DBZ Budokai 3 was considered to be a good DBZ game for its time. But now comes this new DBZ FighterZ that after playing the demo at Anime Expo this past year, it got players and myself excited for the game, having it play similar to Guilty Gear Xrd with elements from DBZ implemented for a true Dragon Ball experience, and they stay true to their word about it. Unlike past games in the series, DBZ FighterZ has the studio Bandai Namco collaborating with another studio, Arc System Works, the makers of Guilty Gear, who are in charge of the development of the game, which is why you see the game demonstrated in 3D cel-shaded graphics in conjunction with 3D camera cutaways of many of the special moves and super combos to give a dramatic perspective like you would see in the TV show. This isn't the first time that Arc System had collaborated with another company, as 8 years prior to DBZ FighterZ, Arc System teamed up with Capcom in development of Sengoku Basara Cross. It's very much Guilty Gear with Sengoku characters, and plays the same way with a few original mechanics that are still not understandable to me due to it being a Japan exclusive. Just as I start the game, I'm introduced to a nice character montage, kind of serving sort of an attract mode that you see in arcades to get me pumped into playing the game. After choosing which continent and lobby to join, you're then taken to a hub world where you can enter various modes such as playing regular arcade mode, train yourself on the game's mechanics, learn the whole story of the game, or join online matches. Just for FYI, Master Roshi's Kami House and West City Spaces do absolutely nothing. This game has 24 characters, with 3 of them being unlockables. You have the familiar characters from Goku all the way to Majin Buu, but you also have characters like Beerus, Goku Black from the Future Trunks saga, and Hit from the Universal Survival Tournament saga, the latter saga which by the time of this video is still ongoing. And as cool as he is, I'm surprised he's chosen over Caulifla, who is another Saiyan of his universe. 3 of the unlockables are Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta, and the mysterious Android 21, but we'll get to her later. The gameplay is a mix of Guilty Gear and BlazBlue's control scheme and team mechanics of Marvel vs. Capcom. Players each select 3 characters to form a team. One player is controlled and can be switched with one of the other characters at any time. Players can also call one of their other characters to perform an assist move, allowing simultaneous attacks and combos with the entire team. Like the Marvel vs. Capcom games, the condition for victory is that all 3 of the opponent's characters must be defeated to win the match. DBZ FighterZ plays out in its game much closer to many other of the traditional Arc System developed fighting games by having the 3 primary attack buttons that are strength based but function different from any other fighting game. In this case, light attacks are still the same as any other game, while medium attacks are a mix of both traditional medium and heavy attacks, while a heavy attack is a move that knocks the opponent away with a heavy blow. The unique action button by itself, or with the direction or special move motion, allows for a ki blast or ki-based special moves to be performed. Players have several universal moves that are staples from the series that they can execute. The first of which is the Vanish attack, in which at the cost of 1 level of ki energy, the player can instantly teleport behind an opponent's character and strike them from behind. This has multiple uses ranging from bypassing enemy projectiles to moving quickly around the stage or extending a combo. The second is the Dragon Rush, used to break through an opponent's guard, and if successful, you attack your opponent with a barrage of punches for a few seconds and offers a choice between an aerial combo or forcing the opponent to switch to a different character, acting as a version of the Marvel vs. Capcom Snapback. But should both execute the move on each other, both will be at a deadlock, allowing both to either escape or one can counter back with ki blasts. The third is the Super Dash, where you will home in on the opponent's lead character and is able to pass through weaker projectiles. However, you can't bypass stronger attacks like Kamehamehas. Players can also charge ki energy to manually increase their ki gauge, similar to previous Dragon Ball fighting games. Unfortunately, you can only execute the move on the ground, and given the very fast nature of the gameplay, I do whatever I can to avoid performing the move, as I would rather not lower my guard. Once per match, you can perform the Sparking Blast, which is a combination of the burst from Guilty Gear as well as Marvel vs. Capcom 3's X Factor, the latter that helps increase attack power and regenerate HP during that duration, and its longevity depends on the number of members left from that team, with the only 1 member left from a team that can unleash a longer Sparking Blast. You may have also noticed in the heads-up display that you can collect Dragon Balls during a match. In this game, you can summon Shenron once per match. You can gather Dragon Balls one by one as the fight progresses by executing some combos, and each successful combo would have a Dragon Ball come into view. Once all 7 are gathered, in order to summon Shenron, the first player who successfully executes the next combo while having maximum ki energy will cause Shenron to come out to grant a wish, and allows the players to choose one among the following benefits: increasing the fighter's strength, revive a fallen ally, recover a fighter's HP, or increase resistance to damage. Graphics and aesthetics wise, DBZ FighterZ runs on the same graphics engine as Guilty Gear Xrd and its sequels, in that it's 2.5D. Basically taking 3D models, having the gameplay set on 2D, but like Guilty Gear Xrd, DBZ FighterZ also uses the method of having 2D art on the character models and backgrounds, the attention to detail giving it the feel of the actual Dragon Ball show. Not to mention the game would have such good stage transitions, such as using a super combo finish to transition from a normal looking planet Namek to Namek on its last legs just like the saga it's based on, or finishing a match with a heavy attack that would send your defeated opponent impacting to another stage to fight on. The developers really loved the show so much that they placed so much dedication of having impactful moments like this, not only to keep us players excited, but also pay homages to the anime. Nearly all the characters are also planned to have differing fighting styles and archetypes apart from each other, akin to more contemporary fighting games as opposed to using recycle-based movesets such as in the Budokai games. Which is why from the 24 characters, you have 2 different Gokus, Vegetas, Gohans, and Majin Boos. And while they would recycle some moves, they would also have different techniques based on the saga they learned it from, such as Super Saiyan Blue Goku activating Kaioken times 10. And then there's the music. Holy frickin' cow, this game has immediately become one of my favorite soundtracks in any fighting game. When you think of Arc System, the music genre that immediately comes to mind is heavy metal. And just like any other fighting game from that company, you can expect DBZ fighters to also be given the same treatment, and many of the tracks are of excellent quality. They can also be passed on as Dynasty Warriors and Sonic the Hedgehog music, with my best ones being The Rocky Fields, The Wasteland, and Planet Namek. As for playing and finding matches online, I have no problem finding anybody to fight against as the response on my side is really smooth, but that's not always the case. In my opinion, I think Bandai Namco and Arc System really took the time to do some diagnostic testing on online play to ensure better experiences for players, and needless to say, they did a really good job at it. Normally, I'm not always online to play fighting games due to work and other agendas in my life, but if I'm ever online, I would find myself booting DBZ fighters and enter ranked matches for some solid fun and replays that I enjoy saving when I want to check out the many finishes and close calls that can happen. As for the game's story mode, I won't go into full detail, but if you've been keeping up with Dragon Ball Super, the story takes place between Universe 6 and the future Trunks sagas. It involves a recently revived Android 16 and a new face in town called Android 21, along with a plot involving a mysterious army of bio-androids that are shaped to appear like Z-Fighters and past villains, from looks to their attack strength, followed by the Z-Fighters somehow getting defeated left and right. There are 3 story scenarios, with the Super Warrior arc initially available where Goku is the main character, and other arcs would be unlocked such as the Enemy Warrior arc where Frieza is the protagonist of that arc, and finally the Android 21 story where Androids 18 and 21 are the main characters. Although each arc features a similar plot, they somewhat follow a different story, with the Android 21 arc most likely more canonical than the others. Over the course of each arc, the explanation for why all fighters are able to fight on even grounds power-wise, and thus must rely on technique or the player's soul inhabiting them to allow them to use more power to win, is due to the waves that inhabit strong people down to a set level. Yes, each arc involves an unseen artificial soul that is created upon unleashing a power wave machine that is said to be created by Android 20. Yeah, no matter how dead he is, Android 20's influence is very much infinite, no matter the arc you choose. It's like the man is so filthy rich, he sure takes his time establishing labs all over the freaking planet under the Z-Fighters' noses, and it's like the Red Ribbon Army itself doesn't know when to stay in the freaking morgue forever and stay there. Anyway, during this mode, the artificial soul will guide the team in a map to fight clones, gain experience like you would in a typical RPG, and gain some new skills that you can equip to your team, such as increase attack power, raise up defense, or increase currency at the end of a match. However, it doesn't matter who ends the match first, as whoever you set up as the frontline character will get the most experience at the end of a fight. Be warned that the conditions for a game over is either all fighters in your team are at 0 HP, or if you used up all your movement turns, resulting in an automatic game over. Some of the characters in the game do not appear in story mode for timeline reasons, such as Goku Black and Hit are not mentioned in the storyline, as the future Trunks and Universal Survival sagas have not yet come to pass. There is no Teen Gohan in story mode as there's already an adult Gohan. Kid Buu and Future Trunks are not playable in the story mode, as Kid Buu was already reincarnated as Oob at that point of the timeline, while Future Trunks has a similar reason to Goku Black's prior to the beginning of the Future Trunks saga. Only the non-playable character clones are in place of the original Kid Buu and Future Trunks. As for Beerus, while also appearing in story mode, he's neither playable nor as a fightable non-playable character boss, as just like in Super, both Beerus and Whis are very much overseers to the Z-Fighters. I'm glad to also hear many of the voice actors reprising their roles, with Sean Schemmel returning as Goku, Christopher Sabat as Vegeta, Kyle Airbear as Adult Gohan, Eric Vale as Future Trunks, and Jason Douglas as Beerus. And new voice actors for the other characters sound great as well, like Hid being voice acted by Matt Mercer, who currently voices Leon Kennedy since Resident Evil 6, and Jia Chong in Dynasty Warriors 8. The developers give so much care into the project that the game just became an instant hit with gamers and critics alike, and with the in-your-face style of gameplay while also paying homages to the series, Dragonball FighterZ is a Super Saiyan God-send. Now there's definitely no denying that this game is definitely worth the hype and the wait, what with the responsive controls, the iconic characters that we love, a very great soundtrack, goodness it sounds so beautiful, and the online playing is actually smooth, at least on my end. And this game is definitely worth picking up and play. As it stands, I have no trouble giving this game a 10. You don't have to be a Dragon Ball fan to actually enjoy this, so if by any chance you're new into fighting games and you need a fighting game to start out with, this is the perfect choice right here. Once you get the mechanics down in no time, it'll definitely be a blast to play. As for fans of Dragon Ball Z, well, I got news to share with you. In recent news, 2 of the 8 DLC characters have been announced. The first being Goku's father, Bardock, who is an interesting choice. And finally, there's Broly. I mean, come on. Sure, we know of his fate in 2 of his movies, but you can't deny in hindsight how powerful Broly is. Not only on how he can go ginormous and still move fast enough in a fight, but you know how kick-butt Broly is the moment that song from Pantera starts playing and business starts picking up into high gear. I really can't wait to purchase him soon. I can't stress enough how DBZ FighterZ is such a great game that many consider this to be an immediate killer of a well-established franchise. And, well, yeah, that's when the next review comes in. So up next in the Chronicles, I'll be conducting my next review retrospective video, and the next subject matter will be Marvel vs. Capcom, going from its humble beginnings all the way to its downfall, which we know that to be Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And of course with that game, I'll also be talking about the things that are wrong with it, all the way to its bad news, which was, well, as you know, the recent news of that game not being included in the EVO 2018 main stage lineup. Oh, I'll be having fun doing this review, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure it's going to go ugly really fast the more I talk about it. Anyway, hope you like this video that I made. If you haven't done so, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like and follow me on Facebook, www.facebook.com/MusashiXreviews. And feel free to share any of my videos with your friends, whether they be interested in Dragon Ball or any of the videos that I have reviewed so far. Until then, this has been Musashi X. I bid you all farewell, take care, and stay tuned.